Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. Today we'll be using the center point of the Kurokumo clan, Kurokumo Ishmael. Like many other faction leaders, Ishmael's main strength comes from the way she buffs the other identities in her faction. She buffs them in 3 different ways: her skill 2, her defense skill, and her passive. Starting with the weakest of them all is her defense skill, which provides 2 defense power-up, which is pretty much only really useful for Heathcliff, so it's not much of a buff if you don't have him. Her skill 2 on the other hand is much more effective, as if you are running the full Kurokumo team, it provides a free unconditional 40% damage buff to everyone except Ishmael. With how powerful the Kurokumo can be, with Honglu's 4-coin skill 2 and Heathcliff just being Heathcliff, a 40% damage buff is massive, especially when combined with Ishmael's passive. This buffs Ishmael herself by giving her slash power and extra bleed, but more importantly it gives adjacent Kurokumo identities her unique status effect Dark Cloud. And if you add a single more lust skill on top of its required activation conditional of 3, it will instead apply to every Kurokumo identity except Ishmael. What it does is very simple. It gives them unbreakable coins and prevents stagger until they do damage. This, combined with a 40% damage bonus, transforms the Kurokumo clan into an unstoppable force that will end your life at the expense of their own. If you think about it from a more realistic perspective, Ishmael's very presence instills so much confidence in the Kurokumo that they will literally throw their lives away for her. And, you know, fair enough I suppose, I'd do the same. Her second passive, Battle Ready, also incentivizes this sort of playstyle, where you simply throw the weaker Kurokumo identities at the wall until they die, and Ishmael, as well as Heathcliff because he has the same exact passive, gain a massive buff to their own skills by doing so. I'm already dreading the day when Project Moon decides to use the Kurokumo as Envy Pecatulum, because that fight is going to be a nightmare. Anyway, to start the run off, we take these starter buffs and find these ego gifts on the first floor of the Outcast before making it to the boss against the Doomsday calendar. He is a pretty easy fight, although normally bleed damage is not very good against him as he doesn't attack very much. Ishmael doesn't mind this though, as her skill 3 is capable of triggering bleed damage on its own, so enemies that don't attack don't stop her from doing bleed damage anyway. We take Little and 2B Naughty Plushie and Ebony Brooch for our reward before heading into Emotional Subservience for the next floor. Here we buy Illusory Hunt, Lithograph, Bloody Gadget, and Resolution before making it to the boss against the Fairy Gentleman. The Gentleman is a very easy boss even if you are fatal to his attacks like we are. Of course we also have an evade, which means he shouldn't be doing any damage to us, but unfortunately we end up missing a single roll and end up staggered as a result. Luckily, getting staggered in this fight doesn't matter at all, as he's far too much of a gentleman to actually do any real damage, unlike us who can absolutely decimate him with how much damage we can dish out.
싸움 앞에서 힘내라 같은 건 쓸모없다고. 어차피 내가 다칠 생각으로 나서지 않으면 우리가 되져버린다. 정신만 똑바로 차려.
쨍그랑 부위가 조각났어. 계속해도 돼. 거슬렸던 부위를 도롱냈으니 갑니다. 이 정도로 나와 겁나는데?
We take Greycoat and wrist guards for a reward before heading into Trickled Sanguine Blood for the next floor. Here we buy Arrested Him and an extra skill 3 before making it to the boss against the Drenched Gossypium. The gossypium is a pretty simple boss as long as you have some way to deal with all of its bleed damage. Normally this is done by using both Princess Rodion and Feng Hun Honglu's support passives, but a simple evade is more than enough to avoid all bleed damage anyway. The only skill of the gossypiums that's even remotely threatening to us is its Flourishing Gossypium skill, which not only inflicts a ton of bleed, but also gains a ton of base power if you have bleed. The first time it uses it, it's not that much of a problem as we don't have any bleed yet, and can easily evade it, but afterwards we gain bleed because of the gossypium's natural mechanics, and can no longer evade it or clash without using an ego. Luckily, we've been taking our time pruning the flower, and by the time he uses it a second time, that's a lot of time, we can stagger him and win the fight.
물렁물렁한 곤약 같은 놈이 있어. 카타 대기만 해도 썰려나가는 걸 보면
곧 위험한 공격이 찾아올 거예요. 갑니다. 저는 개인 중. 40. 이 정도로 다
쨍그랑 부위가 조각났어. 계속해도 돼.
We take Rusted Muzzle and Painkillers for a reward before heading into Yield My Flesh for the next floor. Here we find the Hardwood Liquor Cup, Fractured Blade, and Special Contract, while also buying the Rusted Hilt and Rusted Cutting Knife before making it to the boss against Bamboo-Headed Kim. They gave my boy unbreakable coins. Your bones will be claimed. Unfortunately for him though, unbreakable coins mean nothing so long as you have an evade. If you simply have your evade targeting the unbreakable coin skill as a one-sided evade and then clash with it normally, regardless of whether you win or not, the evade will activate afterwards. Technically, you can do this with normal skills too, but if you win the clash, the evade does nothing, so I don't really advise doing it very often. Anyway, Kim is stupidly easy. Just like the gossypium, his only real threat is his bleed damage, and by having an evade, we ignore that entirely. We don't even give him a chance to claim our bones, as by the time he tries, he's already bled out.
절면 하나비였고
제가 도움이 될지는 모르겠지만 칼날이 잘 드네요. 아마 그 공격이 약점이었겠죠?
이 정도로
We take a duplicate and broken compass for a reward before heading into Refraction Railway Line 4 Section 3 for the final floor. Here we buy Late Bloomer's Tattoo and Phantom Pain while also fusing Red Stain Gossypium before making it to the final boss against the Envy Pekatulum. If it wasn't for the fact that the Pekatulum could use ego skills, Ishmael could easily beat this fight without using them either. This is because she genuinely has one of the best evades in the entire game. The only reason why evades are normally so volatile in the Envy fights, in particular, is because they generally have a max roll of 14, and our own identities can easily beat that. Ishmael though gives herself 2 defense power, turning her evade into a 16 rolling evade, which most of the Pekatulum can't beat. She's not the only identity capable of doing this, but she is the most consistent at doing it on turn 1. The rest of the fight is just her dodging everything and annihilating everyone while occasionally using egos whenever she has to. It's honestly a pretty easy fight all things considered.
조금 전에 귀하들의 전투는
갑니다. 당신을 인도해주진 못해도 따뜻하게 안아줄 수는 있어요.
과연 저자에게는 그런 형세가 적절했겠고 좋은 수였다고 보네.
40. 먹지. 효과적이네요. 이 방식을 기억하는 게 좋겠어요. 갑니다. 자. 40. 먹지.
승객이 딱콩 한 방 먹였어.
갑니다. 40. 이 정도로 겁니다.
물렁물렁한 곤약 같은 녀석. 닥터대기만 해도 썰려나가는 걸 보니
40. 먹지. 이 정도로 겁니다.
늑대가 배고파했어. 잘됐다.
갑니다. 당신을 인도해주진 못해도 따뜻하게 안아줄 수는 있어요.
절묘한 하나비였고
40. 먹지. 40. 먹지.
적합한 관리법이었어요. 다행이에요.
핫! 핫!
늑대가 배고파했어.
갑니다. 40. 이 정도로 겁니다.
칼날이 잘 드네요.
40.
아마 그 공격이 약점이었겠죠?
먹지. 이 정도로 겁니다. 핫! 이 정도로 겁니다.
늑대가 배고파했어.
After the Pecatulum is of course the Dreaming Electric Sheep. This fight was never going to be a challenge. He's more of a training dummy to see how high your damage rolls can go than an actual boss. We could have easily beat him in 2 turns if he had an actual reasonable amount of health, but 3 isn't bad I guess.
40. 먹지.
너는 저기로 가고
갑니다. 핫! 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 저런 개인적으로 40. 먹지.
적들이 흔들흔들.
갑니다. 핫! 40. 먹지.
쨍그랑 둘 다
사실-
조각냈어. 계속해도 돼.
먹지. 이 정도로 나와 공룡한테? 싱겁네요. 윗대가리가 죽었으니 이제 당신들도 우리 조직 밑에서 구르게 되겠죠. 식구 취급을 해주진 않으니 알아서 기세요.
And that's how I soloed Mirror Dungeon 5 hard using only Kurokumo Ishmael. On her own, she's pretty damn powerful. That skill 3 of hers does not mess around. When she's actually used with the full Kurokumo team though, she's a monster with how she enables them. Anyway, that's it from me. Like and subscribe for more videos like this. Goodbye!